met this girl when I was in prison, and I had been locked up for a year already, and she came in, and you could tell that she was new to the system because she just looked like so shell shocked and so afraid to be in prison. She literally walked around with her eyes like kind of wide as if she were searching for danger all the time. And like she did okay. Like she had a beautiful singing voice, and so she immediately joined the church choir. And I had actually joined the choir too. So we got to talking one day. I had a friend, or we knew a girl, we both knew a girl who I had gone to college with, and like so we made that connection or whatnot. And then I saw her again at this other serendipitous time, and I told you the story, but if you haven't heard it, then tell me that you haven't heard it so that I can tell it again, because it's just that good. So her name is Melissa, and when I tell you, I don't know if you guys have ever like fallen in love with a friend, like not in a romantic way, but like it was like I was just lost in prison before I met her. Like I had plenty of friends, but I didn't have like super close friends, like your bestie, you know, like the one you tell everything to. And when I met her, like I literally knew that she was going to be that friend for me. And I remember like waiting for count to clear so that I could go outside and talk to her. And like the first time that we really sat down and talked, we sat down, it was freezing cold, and we sat down, nobody was even on the yard, like that's how cold it was. We had like long johns on, our uniform on, our prison jacket on, hood on, we're bundled up and just talking and shivering because we just had so much to say to each other. And so pretty much from that moment on, we were inseparable. She was on my same building, and she was on a different hall, which that did mess things up a little bit, but we were still able to keep in touch and hang out and see each other all the time. And like, if I wanted to, you weren't allowed to go down the hall that you weren't on. So if she wanted me, she would come to the top of the hall and she would go, Amanda, Amanda. But I was like a good few cubes down. Like I wouldn't have been able to hear her. But everybody would hear, and then they would pass it down. They'd be like, Amanda, Melissa's up there. Amanda, Melissa's up there. And then like it became like a thing, you know, like we played telephone, you know. I used to get up early on Saturday mornings and go and watch Saved by the Bell because it came on at like 7 a.m. and Count was at 7:30 a.m. So on mornings that we didn't have visits, then we would watch Saved by the Bell. And she said it was because it was like one small thing that made her feel normal, like it was a thing from home, you know. She had a harder time adjusting than I did, but anyway, like I said, we were absolute very best friends, and like we had the same, like my last name and her last name are in the same section of the alphabet, so we had our visits together. So she met my dad and I met her mom and dad, and we just, the whole family, like we just like besties for life, you know. So I got out of prison, oh no, I got out of prison 4 or 5 years before her. So when I had to leave her in prison, like I turned around and looked and I just saw her, and she was like super happy for me, but also like heartbroken that she was now going to be in prison by herself, like navigating this entire thing without me, you know. And I was heartbroken too. She literally called me that night, and I laid on the floor of my bedroom for the first time in like 10 years and talked on the phone to my bestie. And it went like that for the next 4 or 5 years. I talked to her on the phone all the time. I always had money on my phone so that she could call. I wrote her letters. I was like just as there for her as if she were one of my friends who was like, who lived down the street, you know, like she was my person. So the fateful day finally arrives, her getting out of prison. It's October the 1st, and we have been counting this day down for years, and ended up going to, so her mom and dad were there obviously, and then she had a girl that she met in prison, and then me, Miss Pat, that's the lady that we met in prison. She's kind of like a mom in a way, and then another one of her friends. And so we got up early in the morning and traveled all the way there. And when she walked out of the gate, her dad and her like made a beeline towards each other, and he just grabbed up his daughter and hugged her so tight, and she just had tears streaming down her face. And like she hugged everyone, but when she got to me, like we were both like Like, it was like a whole moment, you know. And so she's out of prison now, but she lives like a good few hours from me. So we didn't get to see each other as often as we'd like, but we still talked on the phone all the time and stayed in touch and everything. Well, she ended up taking kind of a rough road, you might say. Like, she had been through a lot of traumatic stuff, and when she got out, she ended up kind of hooking up with some people who maybe didn't have like the same life path as her, and she kind of went down a bad path. And she would call me even while she was like using substances, and she would just cry, and she'd be like, I don't, like, what's wrong with me? I can't stop this. I hate this, Amanda. Like, help me. And there was literally nothing I could do, but I was like, I love you and I'm here for you. And finally, things just got really, really bad for her. And she was really lonely, and she was making a lot of really risky decisions. And I was nervous. She said she made some comments about wanting to leave that area. And I said, well, why don't you come to my town? And she thought about it, called me back, and she was like, but what would that look like? And I was like, I don't know. Like, we would have to find you a place to stay, and like, but I will be there for you. Like, she can't drive. She had a driver's license taken away for life. And I was like, but I would take you places. I'll drive you. Like, I will 1000% be there for you. And she thought about it, and then she was like, I'm going to do it. And she bought a bus ticket, and she came to my town. I picked her up from the bus station, and she was just a little shrimp. She was so skinny. She wasn't her like usual happy, bubbly, vibrant self. Like, she was just kind of a shell, but like you could still see her, you know, like, and when I looked at her, the real her was still in there. I had started helping her find a job, find a job, find a place to stay. And like every single day I would work. I was working 3 jobs at the time. And so I would get off work from one of my jobs, and I would go and pick her up and take her around. And like, we just spent so much time together. And one day I was tired, but I didn't want her to be alone. We had found her a place to stay, and like, I didn't want her to be alone. And so I called my brother, and I was like, hey, come hang out with me and Melissa. And they were talking and hanging out really well. And I was like, do you guys mind if I just go? Like, and Steve was like, no, please go, like, take off. I know you're tired. And she was like, yeah, girl, you're fine. And so she was going to get a ride home with him. Well, somehow in the next like 2 to 3 days, she fell in love with my brother. My brother fell in love with her too, like big time. And they became like, I don't know, it's like they were soulmates. I don't know how else to describe it. Anyway, they fell in love, and literally they met, and then the very next year they were married, and they had a baby, and they had another baby, and then they had another baby. And now she is at all my family reunions and all the little birthday gatherings, and like every little thing that you do with your family, she's right there, you know? And like, she gave birth to my family. Like, her kids are my nieces and nephew. And like, I don't know, I saw her tonight because we had a little Halloween get together at my dad's, and like she was there and her kids and everything, and we were just hugging and like talking and laughing, just like it was like old times normal. And it's just kind of weird, you know, like kind of cool how God works. Like, all of that stuff had to happen to get us to where we are now. And like, we're both in such good places. We're both really healthy. She sings on her praise team at her church. Like, she's one of the main singers. And like, I'm doing the things that I'm doing in my life. And now we do like good things together. And we met in prison. So anyway, I just thought I'd tell you guys that story.